Hello. Today we begin our journey through gate 19, and this is the gate of wanting, the gate of approach. It's a tribal gate in the root center, and we begin with the first line called Interdependence. As always, the first line is the foundation, and it always gives us the essential truth of the nature of a hexagram. Here, the first line, interdependence. In the exaltation, the successful approach that does not lose its individual character in acceptance. The pressure of wanting without losing one's identity when being accepted by others. At the other end of the channel, we have the 49, the gate of revolution, of principles, of rejection and sacrifice. It's an emotional gate. When resources seem to be available one moment, they may not be there the next moment, and others are always involved here because it's about support. But the reality is that simply because we need to have the resources, it doesn't follow that we have to give up our nature in order to get those resources. This is really important. The tribe is not meant to be homogeneous. It does allow for individuality, for difference, as long as everybody is contributing to the resources which can then be available for everybody. This line is the basis of the channel of the bride and groom, the 1949. And this is the place where we establish in a bond with the other our individual rights. You know, in needing to give, in needing the other and in needing resources, it is not necessary for us to give up our identity. Truly. We cannot give up our identity in order to gain resources. Ra said this was the basis of tribal prostitution to do such a thing. In the detriment, we find the tendency, once an approach is accepted, to get stuck in continued reflection at the expense of continued development. The pressure for acceptance, which fears eventual rejection. As we go through these lines in gate 19, you'll notice how often there is a comment or a connection to the end of the other end of the channel. Very often the 49 is brought into, even in the lower trigram here, and that doesn't happen so often in many of the other lines that we've been through together. So it's just something to sort of notice as we do this. It talks about resources, it talks about the revolution, it talks about rejection, and all of these really belong in gate 49. So it's really interesting to get into these little nuances that we find in the gates. So when we get to the detriment, to the other side of the energy, it's not just about wanting to be needed. It's not just about the resources of food or spirit or religion. It's also the resource of having a partner. This channel of the bride and groom is all about creating that initial bargain that creates the foundation of how any kind of tribal relationship is going to work. And maybe this is why in 19 it talks so much about the 49, or it brings in those elements, because you're not going to have a bride if there's no groom, and vice versa. So the two have that sort of interconnectedness or interrelatedness in a way that many of the other channels don't. They all work together, of course, but there's just something. So as you see, if you notice it, you can leave me a comment if you do and what your thoughts on it are. The 19th gate is a flirt, and it flirts because it's looking for the possible resources at the other end of the channel. The 49 is moving in a wave because it's solar plexus. And so the fact that these resources may be offered in one moment, it doesn't mean they're always going to be there. This may turn out not to be the real thing after all. The vast majority of relationships on this planet are based on dependency instead of interdependency. This is a fundamental dilemma of bonding, whatever the nature of the relationship is. Is it going to be independent or is it a dependency? And you can see very clearly that the moment there is dependency, there's a loss of identity. The moment of dependency, we have to go against our own principles. And because we are dependent, we have lost our power. We lose the power that exists in interdependency. And this is fundamental in establishing the nature of tribe. Are we interdependent? Are we allowed to be ourselves within the support that we have for each other? Or is that support based on one being dependent on the other? The first line structure, which we know is introspective, in mystical terms, it is the line of awe. And in this sense, the line of wonder. And through genetic continuity, we can see that all first lines, whether they are mystical or not, or regardless of whether they're in the mystical stream or not, all first lines are about wonder. The awe and wonder of being alive, and wonder that comes through figuring things out through introspection. This really is the basis of our spiritual and religious lives, this wonder, this awe in the program, in creation or God or whatever language you want to use. There is always a sense of awe and wonder somewhere in the first line. The grounding throughout this transit through 19 comes from gate 33, and in the first line it is called avoidance. Avoidance, this is what is grounding the light of the sun in the gate of wanting. Avoiding dependence, perhaps. Bringing out the quality of the first line of investigation. Let's really check this bargain out before we sign anything. And maybe it's a bargain that we do need to be avoiding. Jupiter moves into gate 16 at 21:29 GMT. This is the gate of skills and enthusiasm. It's coming out of gate 35. Is this a retrospective movement? Yeah, well, it'd be nice if I knew this, wouldn't it? 35. Is it retrospective? Someone out there's going to know. No, it is. Yes, it's a retrospective movement. 35 and 16 are mirrors of each other. The 35 is on the throat, of course, on the other side. It's in the collective abstract, whereas 16 here, it's throat center, but it is the collective logic. It's a voice that says, I identify. This is a gate that gave me some pause when I first started studying human design, because I couldn't work out why this gate had the voice of I identify. It's not in the G center. Surely there was some mistake here, Ra. Have you really thought this through? I thought. But not being arrogant in any way. When we dig deeper, we find that in order to truly master something, which is a feature of the logical circuit, we master it through identifying with it. And the enthusiasm, that it comes through our voice, it comes through everything when we master something and we truly identify with something. The moon has been in gate 38 since 07:05 this morning, the gate of the fighter in the root center, and it transits into gate 54 at 17:13, the gate of the marrying maiden. This is the mirror to our sun gate in 19. This is the gate of ambition. So, of course, it's also root center and it's also tribal. It's the tribal drive to rise up, both materially and spiritually. And in rising up as a tribe, everybody benefits. And it comes then with the support of the tribe. And next, then we move into the head center 61. And this is individual. It happens at 3:15 tomorrow morning. And it's the pressure to know the inner truth, the mystery. And it's the potential for knowing that you just can't know everything. There are some things that are forever unknowable, and that's fine. This is individuality, and there can be great melancholy here, feeling the pressure to know and never being able to relieve that pressure. And there's always the potential for that pulse of energy that brings a new inspiration, but you never know when it's going to come. So this is our transit for today. We are moving through gate 19, being gate in line 2 tomorrow. Let's not skip all the other lines. Line 2 tomorrow. And so until then, yeah, go gently. I look forward to hooking up with you then. Take care. Bye-bye now.